Welcome to my channel. Today I am going to tell about a story which is called Silly Sorcerer's Spell. Enjoy it. Once upon a time, in the whimsical land of Wonderville, there lived a rather peculiar sorcerer named Silly Sorcerer. He wasn't like any other sorcerer you might have heard of. Instead of casting spells to solve problems, he often ended up making things even more complicated. Silly Sorcerer's house sat atop a hill, surrounded by lush green trees and colorful flowers. His house was as quirky as he was, with crooked chimneys and windows of all shapes and sizes. Despite his oddities, the people of Wonderville adored him for his kind heart and cheerful demeanor. One sunny morning, as Silly Sorcerer was rummaging through his cluttered attic, he stumbled upon an old, dusty book hidden behind a stack of spell scrolls. Curiosity sparked in his eyes as he blew off the dust and opened the book. Inside, he found a recipe for a potion he had never heard of before, the happiness elixir. This seems like just the thing Wonderville needs. Silly Sorcerer exclaimed to himself, his excitement bubbling over. He quickly gathered the ingredients listed in the recipe, a sprinkle of laughter, a dash of joy, a pinch of kindness, and a handful of sunshine. With his cauldron bubbling and his wand at the ready, Silly Sorcerer set to work, following the instructions in the book to the letter. As he stirred the potion clockwise and then counterclockwise, he couldn't help but hum a merry tune. But just as he was about to add the final ingredient, a gust of wind blew through the open window, causing Silly Sorcerer to sneeze right into the cauldron. Achoo! "Oh dear," Silly Sorcerer said, wiping his nose with his sleeve. "I hope that didn't ruin the potion." But before he could inspect the cauldron, a bright light erupted from within, filling the room with dazzling colors. When the light faded, Silly Sorcerer peered into the cauldron and gasped in amazement. Instead of the clear, shimmering liquid he had expected, the potion had turned into a thick, bubbling go that seemed to have a life of its own. It giggled and wiggled, sending sparks of laughter dancing around the room. "What have I done?" Silly Sorcerer muttered, scratching his head in confusion. "I didn't mean to create a giggling go." But as he looked closer, he noticed something remarkable. The air around him felt lighter, and a warm, fuzzy feeling spread through his chest. Despite the go's unexpected appearance, Silly Sorcerer couldn't help but smile. "Perhaps this isn't exactly what I had in mind," he mused, "but maybe it's exactly what Wonderville needs." And with that thought, Silly Sorcerer carefully bottled up the giggling go and set off down the hill, eager to share his creation with the people of Wonderville. As Silly Sorcerer made his way through the bustling streets of Wonderville, the bottle containing the giggling go jiggled and wiggled in his hand, spreading waves of laughter wherever it went. Passers-by couldn't help but chuckle as they caught sight of the mischievous go. And soon, the entire town was filled with the sound of joyous laughter. Word of Silly Sorcerer's latest creation spread like wildfire, and soon, a crowd had gathered outside his colorful cottage, eager to catch a glimpse of the giggling go. "Come one, come all," Silly Sorcerer called out, his eyes twinkling with excitement. "Behold, the happiness elixir, guaranteed to bring laughter and joy to all who dare to try it." With a flourish of his wand, Silly Sorcerer uncorked the bottle, releasing a burst of giggles into the air. The crowd erupted into fits of laughter, their worries and troubles melting away in the presence of the magical go. But as the laughter subsided and the townsfolk went about their day, Silly Sorcerer couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. The giggling go seemed to have a mind of its own, darting this way and that, leaving a trail of laughter in its wake. "I hope I haven't created a monster," Silly Sorcerer muttered to himself, his brow furrowed with concern. Sure enough, as the sun began to set and the streets grew quiet, the giggling go's mischief escalated. It slithered into shops and homes, turning everything it touched into a playground of laughter and chaos. Pots and pans danced in the air, tickling anyone who dared to come near. Furniture sprouted legs and began to waltz around the room, much to the delight of onlookers. But as the night wore on and exhaustion set in, the people of Wonderville found themselves longing for peace and quiet. The giggling antics had gone from amusing to downright disruptive, and they looked to Silly Sorcerer for a solution. "I'm sorry, everyone," Silly Sorcerer said, hanging his head in shame. "I never meant for things to get so out of hand. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." With determination in his heart, Silly Sorcerer set out to round up the giggling, his wand at the ready. But no matter how hard he tried, the proved to be too slippery and elusive, darting through the streets with a mischievous twinkle in its eye. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, Silly Sorcerer had an idea. He remembered the words of the ancient spellbook and whispered them under his breath, channeling his magic into a powerful incantation. "By laughter's might and joy's embrace, I summon thee to this sacred place." In an instant, the giggling froze in its tracks, drawn to Silly Sorcerer's magic like a moth to a flame. With a flick of his wand, Silly Sorcerer contained the once more, trapping it inside a sturdy glass jar. "There, that should do the trick," Silly Sorcerer said with a sigh of relief. "Now, let's get this back where it belongs before it causes any more mischief." And with the help of the townsfolk, Silly Sorcerer returned the giggling to its rightful place atop the hill, where it could spread laughter and joy without causing chaos. As the sun rose on a new day, the people of Wonderville gathered to thank Silly Sorcerer for his bravery and ingenuity. Though the giggling had caused quite a commotion, it had also brought the town closer together, reminding them of the power of laughter in even the darkest of times. With the giggling safely contained once more, peace and harmony returned to the land of Wonderville. But Silly Sorcerer couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more magic to be found within the town's borders. Determined to spread joy in a more controlled manner this time, Silly Sorcerer set to work on a new creation. He gathered the finest ingredients from all corners of Wonderville, the sweetest smiles, the warmest hugs, and the brightest laughter. With a twinkle in his eye and a skip in his step, Silly Sorcerer brewed his latest concoction, the Laughter Potion. This time, he made sure to follow the recipe carefully, avoiding any sneezes or unexpected gusts of wind. When the potion was finally ready, Silly Sorcerer invited the people of Wonderville to his cottage once more, eager to share his latest creation with them. The townsfolk gathered around, their eyes shining with anticipation as Silly Sorcerer unveiled the sparkling liquid. "Behold, the Laughter Potion," Silly Sorcerer proclaimed, holding the bottle high above his head. "With just one sip, you'll be filled with joy and merriment like never before." The people of Wonderville lined up eagerly, each taking a sip of the potion and letting out peals of laughter that filled the air. Soon, the entire town was enveloped in a blanket of mirth, their hearts light and their spirits lifted. But Silly Sorcerer wasn't done yet. He knew that laughter was meant to be shared with others, and so he set out on a journey to spread the gift of laughter far and wide. From the neighboring villages to the farthest reaches of the kingdom, Silly Sorcerer traveled, bringing joy and happiness wherever he went. And as he traveled, Silly Sorcerer discovered something truly magical. The more laughter he shared, the more it multiplied. Soon, laughter became contagious, spreading from person to person like wildfire and filling the world with light and love. When Silly Sorcerer returned to Wonderville, he was greeted with cheers and applause from the townsfolk, who had heard tales of his wondrous adventures. They thanked him for his kindness and generosity, knowing that their lives would never be the same again. From that day forward, Silly Sorcerer's name became synonymous with laughter and joy in the land of Wonderville. And though he may have started out as a rather peculiar sorcerer, Silly Sorcerer had proven that sometimes, the silliest of spells could lead to the happiest of endings. And so, dear children, remember the tale of Silly Sorcerer and the gift of laughter he brought to the world. For in a world filled with darkness and despair, it is laughter that truly has the power to light up our lives and bring us closer together. I hope you enjoy listening to Silly Sorcerer's spell.